As you can hear, it is a Jake Paul friendly crowd.
That Fury should be using, and that was a decent shot indeed. Jake Paul continues to be dangerous though. Jake Paul just slightly unraveling there as Tommy Fury landed a decent shot and the bell ends the round.
Former two-time world champion AJ Anthony.
Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua ended up in a shocking clash that no one thought would happen. A YouTuber facing a two-time heavyweight champion in a battle left the world gasping. Brutal punches and a fourth-round knockout shattered expectations and left jaws on the floor. Every moment inside the ring screamed chaos, courage, and pure, unforgiving power.
Jake Paul, Anthony Joshua.
Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua. Just saying it sounds so insane. A YouTuber who built his fame off pranks, vlogs, and diss tracks, stepping into the ring with a two-time heavyweight world champion. People laughed at the idea.
Let's say hello to the two men who will be going toe-to-toe in an 8-round heavyweight bout, a pro bout, live and exclusively on Netflix from right here at the Kaseya Center in Miami, Florida.
Everyone wondered if Jake could even survive one round, let alone go toe-to-toe with a man who has knocked out some of the best heavyweights in the world. But this fight was about fame, money, and legacy, and behind the glitz of promotional hype and social media chaos, there was drama few fans saw coming. Jake refusing exhibitions, Joshua insisting on a real professional fight. Stakes were sky high, and what really happened in that ring? It would leave everyone stunned.
This is a win-win and another challenge for myself. I've never been knocked down or knocked out even in sparring.
Jake's story starts far from the ring in Cleveland, Ohio, where he was born in 1997. From early on, Jake had that hunger, that relentless drive, a spark that would eventually push him beyond the limits of ordinary fame.
Cleveland, Ohio as well. He's El Gallo. He's the one and only, the problem child, Jake Paul.
Social media became his playground and safe space too. But with fame came scrutiny. Public scandals, lawsuits, and conflicts with Disney showed a ruthless side, a kind of sociopathy for numbers and attention. For all the controversies, it revealed a single-minded determination, the same trait that would define his boxing career. Then came the first fight that changed everything, the influencer match against Deji. Few believed it could even be competitive, but Jake's cardio and mental toughness turned the tables. He absorbed attacks, kept pressing, and by the 5th round, Deji's corner threw in the towel. Jake had won. The victory wasn't about skill, it was about pacing, endurance, and sheer willpower. That fight set the stage for what was coming, a calculated evolution from chaotic influencer fights to real boxing strategy.
As in any fight, but especially with debuters, whoever lands the first clean, hard shot, that's the guy that tends to take control of the fight.
Next came Gib, a professional debut that shocked everyone. Jake had only one prior fight experience, but he showed movement, counters, and timing that surprised even skeptics. A first-round knockout made headlines, eclipsing even Logan's achievements. Suddenly, the YouTuber wasn't just a social media spectacle, he was a rising fighter with technique to back it up. Trash talk, viral press conferences, and wild promotional antics became part of his weaponry. The world watched as the once purely entertaining figure started, blending showmanship with legitimate skill.
Paul currently filmed airplane mode with his brother, and it's Nate Robinson looking to put his brother in airplane mode as they...
The progression didn't stop there. Nate Robinson, a former NBA star, stepped into the ring, and many thought this was Paul's biggest challenge yet. Speed, strength, experience on massive stages. Robinson had it all, but Jake had evolved. By the 2nd round, he had exploited timing, distance, and stamina to knock Robinson out. His method, relentless body shots to sap energy, strategic jabs, and that now iconic rear hand hook that few expected from a former Vine star. That fight was a turning point. Jake Paul wasn't just an influencer anymore. He was a boxer the mainstream couldn't ignore.
He has done it from time to time, just hasn't been... Oh! That's
Then came the tests against real fighters, Tyrone Woodley and Anderson Silva. Against Woodley, a former UFC champion, Jake faced raw power and top-tier striking experience. The first fight ended in a split decision where one punch nearly changed everything, but Jake adapted, learned, and in the rematch delivered a brutal knockout, the first time Woodley had ever been KO'd. With Silva, a legendary martial artist, Jake faced cunning strategy and veteran mind games. He learned to use body head combinations, feints, and better positioning, gradually refining instincts and ring IQ. Every fight built the story of a relentless evolving fighter, a YouTuber turned contender who refused to be underestimated.
To see more action, he just landed the overhand right, testing the beard of Paul Early.
And everybody was saying,
Breaking into professional boxing for Jake Paul wasn't some casual step up. It was more like diving headfirst into a storm while juggling flaming chainsaws. His first real attention-grabbing fight was the Mike Tyson event, and not against some no-name journeyman, but against Nate Robinson. Yes, the NBA dunk contest legend. Now, imagine Jake, a 6'1" YouTube kid with more hype than actual experience, facing a man who had spent his entire career jumping, running, and dunking like a human cannonball. Social media was ready to roast him alive. Yet somehow, in a fight that nobody expected him to survive past round 1, Paul weathered Nate's athletic storm, cut the distance, and landed the punches that knocked Robinson out cold in the second round. Brutal, decisive, and a statement, Jake Paul had arrived.
The referee Thomas Taylor saying, listen, this is boxing, but of course on this type of stage with no experience behind you.
But Nate Robinson was just the appetizer, the real meal, and probably the first time the boxing world raised a collective eyebrow was Tyrone Woodley. Here was a man who wasn't just physically strong, he was a UFC legend, a former champion with a career full of people hitting the mat in submission or knockout. The first fight was brutal for Jake. He got clipped, almost KO'd, and survived purely on grit and cardio. People saw the fragility, the mistakes, the raw inexperience, but also that unshakable determination. Jake Paul wasn't just a YouTuber trying to swing fists. He was a student of the fight, a man learning under fire. Next up, Anderson Silva. Now, Silva wasn't just a fighter, he was the striking wizard of MMA, a living legend. Here, Jake got a masterclass in elite-level mental games. Silva used movement, feints, and reading every twitch of Jake's body. It wasn't just physical, it was psychological warfare. Jake learned to mix body head combos, trap opponents, and survive mental attacks while staying aggressive. These bouts weren't just fights, they were schooling sessions in brutality, precision, and strategy. Every jab, every hook, every pullback was sharpening him for the day he'd step in front of a real heavyweight.
Bring that right hand over. That's better. That's a nice jab there from Tommy Fury. It's a good left hand as well that got through. The first meaningful shot of the fight landed right at the end of the round.
Enter the Tommy Fury saga. Now we're talking pure chaos and pure entertainment. This wasn't just a fight, it was a months-long soap opera with family drama, press conference theatrics, and enough trash talk to fill 3 arenas. Tyson Fury, John Fury, and the entire Fury circus got involved. Verbal punches were thrown like wild haymakers. Jake didn't flinch. He swam through a pool of insults, trolled relentlessly, and turned media manipulation into a weapon. Each heated exchange, every backstage altercation, every viral clip taught him how to manage professional boxers, hype, and pressure. It was schooling in psychology, showmanship, and survival, the kind you can't learn from sparring alone. By the time he faced Joshua, Jake had mastered the art of turning chaos into confidence.
The two-time former unified heavyweight champion of the world, the 2012 Olympic gold medalist, the pride of Watford, the pride of the United Kingdom. Make some noise for the one and only Anthony Joshua!
Then we get to Anthony Joshua. Let's call it what it is, the real heavyweight threat. 28-4, 25 knockouts, Olympic gold, 2-time unified champion. The resume alone is terrifying. Joshua wasn't here for PR stunts. He wasn't stepping in for a quick paycheck. He's disciplined, strategic, and devastatingly powerful. His history against elite heavyweights shows he can survive wars in the ring and dismantle anyone standing in front of him. And now, ironically, he's facing Jake because Jake's usual exhibition fights, the ones he thrives in, were suddenly off the table, and Gervonta Davis pulled out. The world suddenly got the fight it didn't think it would see. YouTube sensation versus a heavyweight storm. suspense was real. Could Jake's unorthodox style, learned against MMA legends, NBA stars, and his own hype, survive against the calculated, brutal power of Joshua? Could his adaptability, speed, and body-head combos withstand the precision and devastating overhands of a man who had shattered the dreams of every heavyweight in his path? The stage was set. Fame versus legacy, chaos versus discipline, showmanship versus raw destruction. All of this led to Anthony Joshua. The stakes couldn't have been higher. One side, a man who built fame from clicks, chaos, and controversy, now fully trained in the art of boxing. The other, a heavyweight champion with speed, power, and decades of boxing experience. Paul had survived every challenge thrown at him, but this was a different level. The hype, the drama, the tension. Everything converged in one arena. Fans weren't just watching a fight, they were witnessing the culmination of a journey defined by audacity, controversy, and evolution. Anthony Joshua's story is one of pure domination, discipline, and destruction. Born on October 15, 1989, Joshua wasn't handed glory. He had to take it. A young man growing up with raw talent, raw ambition, and nothing but hunger. From the start, his life demanded grit. Every setback was a lesson. Every challenge, a chance to prove he belonged at the top.
He's taking his time. Here comes
Joshua exploded onto the scene as an amateur, but even then, his knockout power was impossible to ignore. He captured gold at the 2012 Olympics, turning heads worldwide. But the Olympics weren't the final destination. They were just a warning shot. From that moment, the boxing world knew he was coming to dismantle anyone who dared stand in his path. Turning pro, Joshua made quick work of his early opponents, knocking them down with terrifying authority. His record? Brutal. Almost unforgiving. 28 wins, 25 by knockout. That's an 89% KO rate. Every fight was a statement, every victory a declaration that Joshua was a destroyer in the ring. No mercy, no second chances.
In this arena knows it's going to go off as well, just to survive the opening section here, because Joshua's zeroing in on it more.
Joshua's mental game is just as merciless as his fists. Calm under pressure, methodical in execution, and ruthless when the moment strikes. He's a calculating predator in the ring. He doesn't just hit hard, he breaks confidence, morale, and sometimes even dreams. Opponents enter thinking they can survive, then realize they've walked into a storm they weren't prepared for. His preparation is obsessive, almost surgical, and his results devastatingly consistent.
Why that right hand? He's in there, it's John who walked right into it, and you can't do that against Anthony Joshua.
What makes Joshua terrifying is more than just his power, it's the complete package. Size, speed, precision, mental fortitude, knockout instinct, all fused together to create a force of nature. He is the type of fighter who doesn't allow a second chance, doesn't entertain excuses, and doesn't forgive mistakes. In the ring, he's a god of destruction. Outside, he's disciplined, focused, and calculating, always thinking several steps ahead. Joshua's strategy was clear: keep composure, pick the shots, punish mistakes, and use that knockout power everyone knew he had. Jake's strategy was equally raw but unpredictable. Pressure, feints, mental games, and hope his experience with diverse opponents carried him through. The contrast couldn't be starker, and the tension electric. Fans weren't just watching a fight, they were witnessing a collision of worlds, a test of whether hype could survive history's brutality. By this point, the ring wasn't just a square of canvas, it was a proving ground. Every punch, every movement, every grunt and foot shuffle mattered, and the world leaned in. The lights dimmed, the crowds roar, escalating to a deafening hurricane, and Jake Paul strutted out like he owned the arena. But across the ring, Anthony Joshua entered with that cold, imposing calm that only a two-time heavyweight world champion can radiate. No theatrics, no exaggerated moves, just sheer presence. Every step Joshua took was a statement. This is my world, kid. The contrast was stark. Jake, flamboyant and wild, Joshua measured and deadly. As the opening bell rang, Paul jumped into his usual game plan. High-pressure jabs, lead hand hooks, feints, all aimed at controlling the pace. The crowd cheered at each connection, the buzz palpable. Jake moved quickly, testing Joshua's timing, throwing punches with the kind of reckless confidence that had worked against Woodley and Silva. But Joshua's eyes were like hawks. Every swing was calculated, every overextension a potential opening for devastating counters. Paul landed a few clean body shots, nothing monumental, but enough to show he wasn't going to fold immediately.
You can just tell Jake Paul's looking for the right hand over the top, the big shot.
Rounds 1 and 2 passed like a high-octane chess match. Jake's aggression was impressive. His speed kept the audience on edge. Yet Joshua's elite ring IQ began to emerge. He slipped punches, cut angles, and landed subtle counters that thudded against Paul's body and head. Jake's hits didn't rattle him. Joshua barely flinched. It was the difference between experience and raw aggression. Still, Jake's resilience was undeniable. He pressed forward, feints turning into combos, trying to unsettle Joshua, but the calm, deadly composure of Anthony was unshakable, and the commentators hinted at what was coming. Something is about to snap in this fight. Paul is walking a tightrope.
There's a good right from.
By round 3, the tension in the arena was thick enough to cut with a knife. Joshua shifted gears, his footwork sharpened, his angles became more precise, and suddenly, his counters were landing with the kind of force that made even the hardened audience flinch. Paul's punches were becoming telegraphed, his energy slightly fading under the adrenaline and sheer pressure of stepping up to a real heavyweight. Each time Jake swung, Joshua responded, and the crowd felt every hit. Every miss from Paul was a silent countdown ticking toward the inevitable. He's waiting for the perfect moment, and when it comes, it's going to end fast. Round 4 began, and the arena braced. Paul charged forward, trying to overwhelm Joshua with a familiar burst of aggression, but Joshua had already read the playbook. As Jake threw a wide hook, Joshua sidestepped with the grace and precision of a true master. Then it happened. A straight right cross exploded against Paul's jaw, snapping his head back so violently that the crowd gasped in unison. The moment seemed to slow. Paul staggered, hands trembling, eyes wide with panic, everything. He had learned. Every bold prediction of survival hung by a thread.
He needs to do that at this stage. You feel as though he... Well, there's Sean Porter's card. He's got it.
Joshua didn't flinch, didn't waste a second. He stepped in and unleashed a perfectly timed uppercut that landed flush on Paul's chin. The arena went ballistic. Jake flew across the canvas, sprawling helplessly. The commentators screamed, almost in disbelief. This is it. The YouTuber is down. Anthony Joshua has done it. Paul attempted to rise, shaking, defiant, but his body betrayed him. He collapsed again. The referee immediately began the count. 1, 2, 3, 4. By the count of 10, it was over. 4th round KO. Joshua stood composed and commanding, while the world collectively held its breath at the sheer brutality of it. Close-ups captured everything. Joshua's stoic expression, Paul's shock and disorientation, the fans erupting like a volcano. In the ring, Joshua celebrated professionally, acknowledging Paul's courage but asserting the unmistakable reality. This is what true heavyweight power looks like. Commentators dissected the fight in awe. Paul's resilience, cardio, and fearless aggression had allowed him to survive longer than anyone predicted, but the power, experience, and ring IQ mismatch was brutally clear. Every punch, every feint, every desperate combination from Paul was answered with calculated precision and raw force from Joshua. The slow motion replays were merciless. Joshua's timing, his angles, the sheer ferocity of the uppercut that ended it all. A brutal masterclass in knockout artistry.
This fella just couldn't land that big one. There's a lot of respect there.
The moment was a statement. Fame versus legacy. Chaos versus discipline. A YouTuber's audacity crashed into the immovable wall of a 2-time world champion. And the world watched, stunned, entertained, and absolutely riveted. The arena emptied, but the world was still buzzing. Social media exploded with disbelief. Memes flying, hot takes everywhere, and debates raging. A YouTuber in the same ring as a 2-time heavyweight champion, and he actually survived 4 rounds. People couldn't stop talking about the audacity of it all. For once, the influencer fight narrative wasn't just hype. It was real, brutal, and undeniable. Even casual sports fans had to admit that Paul's heart, resilience, and sheer willpower made the spectacle unforgettable. This fight was about a collision of worlds. Traditional boxing discipline meeting modern social media bravado. For years, influencer bouts were dismissed as jokes, but now the conversation changed. Suddenly, promoters, networks, and fans alike were asking, are we underestimating these crossover athletes? Joshua's legacy wasn't tarnished. If anything, it was reinforced. But the sport itself got a massive injection of global attention. Joshua, stoic as ever, addressed the fight calmly. He acknowledged Paul's courage and adaptability, while confirming that his own journey wasn't over. The heavyweight throne still had his name written on it, but the lesson was clear. Dismissing anyone with unconventional skill and relentless drive is dangerous. For Jake Paul, the KO loss didn't erase anything. He earned newfound respect, validated as a serious contender rather than just a YouTube stunt. His technique, timing, and mental toughness proved that his journey from Vine to Disney to the boxing ring was no accident. The fight shattered expectations, opened doors, and left a lingering question in everyone's mind. Who could realistically stop Jake Paul next?